Listeners, welcome to Tales of Abundance. As always, I'm here with Anthony Marino and Dr. John Oberg. Gentlemen, let's jump in. Let's talk about, Anthony, want to talk about the Olympics today. John, do you have a favorite moment so far this year?
Man, I've been watching a bunch. When I was a kid, we grew up watching the Olympics. And so for me, there's a lot of nostalgia. So I keep it on in the background when I can. And sometimes I catch like the daytime and the evening time, like on the weekends with what's going on. It's been really fun to watch hockey, just how these guys that play on the same teams in pro hockey are playing so hard against each other and they're really into it. And then, but even the figure skating has been amazing. The curling, like the level of detail and the level of technology and the level of thought they put into, like they make it look like, gosh, I could go curl. But the truth is I couldn't curl to save my life, And so it just, I appreciate the commitment of all of these different sports and like the difference of a millimeter in the biathlon where you have this rifle at 50 meters that if you miss by a millimeter, it costs you a minute. And so I think ABC Sports back when I was a kid talked about the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat and the ski jumper going off the side and crashing. And I mean, there are things you hear about like ice skaters getting thrown 12 feet off the ice and 16 feet horizontally and then landing perfectly on ice on an ice skate. Like that's an incredible athletic event. Or these people that are like 18, I can't remember if it's feet or meters above the apex on when they're jumping like snow skiing. Like all the data that you watch, it's just unbelievable athleticism. And so I have a real to see what Anthony's talking about, which is the camaraderie and the athleticism all put together and the empathy and it's really humbling for me.
Yeah, I've been around a couple of Olympians. I'm thinking John Roethlisberger, who was a roommate of mine actually when I lived back in Minneapolis at the time. He was the most decorated U.S. male gymnast of all time at that point, which meant he was, I think, finished 10th or 15th or, I think the U.S. has done better since then. But he would be gone before I'd get up in the morning. He would come home in the afternoon and he would walk into the house with ice packs on both shoulders, knees, elbows, and he would just and he was jacked beyond belief, but he, like the amount of work that he put into that every single day, right? I think it was 7 days a week. To Anthony's point, to finish like 15th, right? And my other friend, Poon, he'd been a national champion in Taekwondo, and he would actually, the guy that he beat for the national championship, he ended up getting second to in the Olympic trials. So he was just an alternate. He wasn't even likely going to be on the team. And I used to go with a couple other friends of mine and help him train. By helping him train, it means I held bags while he kicked them, right? And it was unbelievable. He was 140 pounds and just unbelievable power. But he would already be there he'd been working out he worked a day job at IDS Financial Services, and he would get there early. We would come there in the evening. He was already working out for hours, kicking, lifting, doing whatever, and then we would work out with him for like 3-4 more hours at night, and that was to be an alternate, right? So the work and the dedication, and John had sponsorships and he was getting paid okay back then. Poon didn't get anything. I mean, he had to go work a day job and do this on the side. So watching that firsthand, the effort that went into that was pretty remarkable, right?
That is a big change in what the Olympics are today versus what they were when we were growing up. Now they can earn money, right? They can earn sponsorships and make some money at it. Back in the Bruce Jenner days, it wasn't until you had to be a winner to get on a Wheaties box, and so that's different, which I think is what I think is really positive because it gives them the freedom to train and get the best equipment and get the best trainers and have have dietitians and so forth. And so the sports are getting better and better. So it's just all good. It's all good. It's time to feel good about something in a world where we don't get a chance to feel good as much as we'd like. So
yeah, and I asked you guys what your favorite moments were. For me, like, I think literally, like, watching last night, there was an Italian skier. I couldn't tell you her name, but I think she's like 35 years old, and she had a horrific knee accident 10 months ago, right? And there were questions, would she ski again? And certainly nobody expected her to be in the Olympics this year. And her just getting there was, what Anthony was talking about was like this huge win, right? And even though she's had this success, so just, I love that, like, that grit and determination and overcoming the obstacles. And then she won, they were talking about, she won a gold medal, and 2 days ago or whatever, we have time delay, but she won a gold medal, went out, danced all night, got up, came back the next day, and then in the giant slalom or whatever, she won a second gold medal after having, this horrific knee injury and rehab. Like, I'm really inspired by those things in, almost any sport. The Lindsey Vonn thing, too, like what a savage, right? I mean, hers didn't turn out to be as cheery of a story, but she tore her ACL 9 days before she competed, and then, fell and broke her leg and everything. But, I mean, just, that comeback and that determination, I have a lot of respect for that. So.
Yeah.
It's a little thing. But back to curling, but I think we can maybe wrap this. But there was a controversy, when they're pushing that stone, and we're getting to a start, they're allowed to release it, and then they can't touch it till they release it. Well, there was a controversy, a couple of them, where it was thought that one of the teams barely touched it a second time. And that's a big deal in curling. But in both instances, the team that saw it, that it was against them, neither one of them filed a protest. They just let it go. It's, in other words, they weren't 100% sure. They didn't cry about it. I don't know which team won or lost, but there's a spirit in the Olympics and you see it between countries. These skiers, they all train together all year. You know what I mean? They're together. It's not like the hockey guys, they're on teams and they're off somewhere, but these bobsledders and ski jumpers, they're at the same facilities with the same coaches. There's a camaraderie. I don't know. I just think it's all good. It's all good. So I'll just leave it there.
I think we all agree we need more of that in the world, right? So
Yes,
I think
for sure.
Yeah, generally a good thing. So, listeners, we're going to go to break. When we are back, we are going to be with Omar Medrano. I think I'm saying his name wrong, but anyway, he is a best-selling author, and he talks a lot about things that tie into abundance and a vacation CEO and various things. I think you're really going to enjoy it. But the real concept that he brought that I really like is, what if it did work? And living in a place of hope and abundance versus living in a place of, most people ask, what could go wrong? What if it doesn't work? And him asking the question, what if it did work? So we will talk to you after the break and be back with Omar.
Here are Tales of Abundance. We know that fitness is just as important as money or milestones. It's one of our key 5 F's, but lots of us. Taking care of my body while I build my life is one of the more time-consuming and difficult goals to chase. That's why we're partnering with AG1. It's a daily drinkable habit. Less than a minute, that's formulated with 75 plus vitamins and nutrients and designed to support energy, digestion, and immune defense. It even has a few grams of protein that we're all chasing these days. And if you want to try it with our affiliate link, you'll also receive a free AG1 flavor sampler, plus vitamin D3 plus K2 with your welcome kit when you first subscribe, a $72 value. Go to shop.drinkag1.com/tales.
All right, listeners, welcome back. I am still here with Dr. John Oberg. Anthony is having some technical difficulties, so we will soldier on without him. And we have special guest Omar. I should have asked you is it Medrano?
Whatever you want to pronounce it. Medrano.
Okay, Medrano. Great. And you are an author. I think you have 2 best-selling books, a TED Talk. You've got a podcast. And a lot of different things. I I know one of your books is The Vacation CEO Lifestyle, but your podcast name, What If It Did Work? I love the title. I got to tell you, I love the question. I love the title. So let's start there. How did you come up with that? Like, where did that come from?
Well, most of my life, it was the opposite. It was always this fear of nothing was ever going to work out. I mean, I had every phobia available. Fear of rejection. I couldn't even ask out a girl back in junior high school, just because I thought maybe CNN was actually still out there, and or like the Miami Herald, big news article, Omar Medrano gets rejected. So everything, it was always like the worst case scenario. So I mean, I literally grew up in South Florida, and I thought South Florida was horrible. I had to move my life. I had to go away for school to Louisiana because clearly South Florida is horrible. It's not. It's not the state. It's not me. It's the state. So I moved, and it was like, oh my gosh, are you telling me that I could have grown up like in Hawaii? I could have grown up in anywhere like Beverly Hills, and it's me. So yeah, I quickly had to pivot from being an introverted person. I was such an introvert. People thought I was a foreign exchange student or something. Growing up, they put me in ESOL because they thought I couldn't speak English.
What's ESOL? I don't know what that is.
English for speakers of another language. So
Oh,
either
okay.
Miami-Dade County Public Schools did such an amazing job, I don't have an accent, or I could always speak English, and it's always been my primary language.
In your notes, though, you really talk about the difference. What if it did work is really the opposite of what if it doesn't work, right?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
and that, I mean, I
Why
think
do we do?
that nuance is
What?
so critically important, right?
Well, yeah, because I don't understand why we always pivot and we always think, it can't. That it's for the lucky people, or my whatever story we say in our heads. It's not in our horoscope, or you know, Mercury's over retrograde, or whatever nonsense. Or oh my God, that person. It's unfair. That person's better looking or has better cards dealt with. You know what? Suck it up, people. Life isn't fair.
Yeah, that emotional risk is like a thing that people have different levels of resilience for sure. What was it in your life that made you go from one to the other? Was there like a moment in time that changed, or was it a gradual shift? Was it work personal? Was it work?
It was always like it was a boom, like 5, 6, 7, 8 steps forward, and then it would be like it would come crashing down. Like I moved away. I had to join a fraternity, and I still couldn't talk. What pivoted me was they were actually hazing me, but they thought it was funny. They would make me, the guy that had fear of rejection, go out to LSU, Louisiana State University, is a drinking school, party school. It was the number one party school at the time. 18 and older to drink in Louisiana. 21 to drink, but 18 to buy alcohol. In Louisiana, everything's different at the time. And we would go out every night, and these women are you ahead of time to say no thanks. So I'd have to ask them out for a drink, ask them out to dance, or if it was a girl that no one knew, she was with a guy, and it was like Friday night fights or whatever. So it was a great way to, but it was really, and I kept on getting no after no after no, and then I would have to introduce myself. I'm Goose, and they'd be like, "Why do they call you Goose?" Because I'm like Goose Man. All I know how to do is crash and burn, which was a from
It's
Top
actually
Gun.
pretty fun. That part's pretty funny.
So yeah, that's how I got over that fear of rejection.
Funny
Do
enough,
you?
Goose was married before Maverick in Top Gun, just for the record.
Yes, he was, and to Meg Ryan.
Right.
Are we dating ourselves?
Yeah, I'd definitely be dating myself because the hair didn't do it already.
So, do you find when you're working with just regular everyday people trying to help them overcome these same things? And I love the question, what if it did work? But do you find other people's experiences are more similar to yours or more dissimilar? Like,
Oh,
what do you think most people are dealing with?
we create our own stories. I mean, I grew up, or I went out with a woman that she was like the Pope, like flying, like she had to literally get out of the plane and kiss the ground. And it's like, fear of flying. And it's like, honey, how rare? I think it's a bigger, greater chance of you winning the lottery than being in a plane crash. And it's like, why do people always pivot towards like? Not only is that worst case scenario, that is highly, super highly unlikely. I mean, you probably have a better chance of winning a Pulitzer Prize than getting involved in a plane crash. But yet you hear people all the time. But instead of trying to overcome it, they'll be like, "Oh, I need to take a Xanax. I need to do this. I need to do that." It's like, suck it up. I'm not telling you to overcome fear of flying by, going on like a 12-hour flight, 16-hour flight to Dubai or something like that. But I mean, face your fears. That's we only have one life, and so many people, we're living in our dash, and so many people don't realize that it's such a short dash. Just live it to the fullest.
So explain what that. So I know what that means because I used to give a speech called the dash between the dates. But explain to people what the dash is. It's such a
Okay.
powerful concept.
Well, the dash for me started July 24th, 1973. Back in the Stone Ages. That's when I was born. Now,
Yep.
whether a person of faith or whatever, God, the universe, Jesus, I don't know when my time is to meet them. So it could be today, it could be tomorrow. So I'm living in my dash. Right now, I'm the writer of, of my life story. I'm the creator of my destiny, the master of everything. Now, do I want my obituary to say he was just a great guy? He lived for the weekends. He knew how to clock out at 5 p.m. on a Friday, because that's what so many people, right now they're waking up upset, not because of the halftime show, although plenty of people are to feel significance. They're upset that they didn't get the day off. They're upset because it's Monday. Instead of embracing it, I mean, it's a gift to be. I mean, who cares what day it is? Every day that ends in Y, embrace it, because every day it's your birthday. And I tell that to people. I never wish someone that I care about happy birthday on their born date, because every day we get a chance to be reborn with the opportunity of living and loving our best life.
That's an amazing point to be at, but you have to get there, right? It's like you
Oh,
can't just flip a
yes.
switch. I mean, you say in your bio that it's not about motivation; it's about acting your way into it. Talk
hmm
about how you started acting your way into it and what you counsel other people to do to walk their way into it.
Well, I thought you had to buy happiness. I thought you had to buy success. I thought once you hit a certain goal, maybe the clouds would disperse, a rainbow or sunshine would hit on me, and God would be like, "I'm so proud of you, Omar. You opened up another successful business." Or here, it was the second book that's going to give you happiness. And it was always like, like chasing after something, after a number, after a goal, after an achievement for happiness, until we're thinking that it was like a finite amount. A lot of people think success, money, is a finite amount, that if you take it from this pile, you're taking it from somewhere else. But both happiness and success, infinite amount. It took a long time and a lot of money, because I felt like going to every guru and, buying their, well, you paid the $10,000 for only the low price of another $20,000. We will give you the answers. And did all that. And then it just hit me. Yeah, happiness is a choice. And I woke up this morning with the opportunity, with the choice of being happiness. It didn't matter who won the Super Bowl. Didn't matter if Bad Bunny or Kid Rock invited me or did not invite me to watch them play. We always have these external factors like, well, I bet X amount of money on the Patriots. If they win, I'll be happy. No, that's a decision, a dumb decision. Just choose it every single day. And nobody gives you happiness, because we always think someone else's validation. Or we always try to get happiness from people that don't even have the tools to give themselves happiness.
So where do we start? Like, let's say someone's unhappy, they're listening in, they want to be happy, they're working hard at it, they're maybe they feel like they're grinding a little bit. Where does somebody start?
Just take a step back, man. Relax. Breathe. That's something we don't do. We're always with the shallow breathing. reason why somebody's on the plane and they have this anxiety is the shortness of breath. So, I mean, just relax, take a deep breath, and realize just the amount that you have accomplished or how far you've come in such a short amount. A lot of times people are like, well, I thought I would be like a billionaire. In what aspect? Well, because I went to college and I got a master's degree. Okay, so, and I'm good because a lot of people, you know, if they do if they get the cardboard, paper mache or whatever, and they do their vision board. They don't understand that you can't just be, your intentions can't be great and you can't be good. None of us were Jeffrey Dahmer. None of us were serial killers. Well, some of us are, but not many. If being a good guy or a good person meant that you're going to find success without doing work, we'd all have six-pack abs, we'd all have Lambos, and we'd all be living off the intercoastal somewhere.
Can you give us an example of someone or a couple of people that you've coached that were in a particular place, and over time you moved them, they started their journey and things improved? And how did that work? Like, where were they? How did you get through to them? What was their
Oh,
first step?
definitely,
Just
definitely.
kind of like a process, what the actual real world example.
A real world example, a woman hired me to do a corporate talk, which I did a corporate talk in New Jersey, of all places. It was last winter, it was super cold. And she's like, can you please talk with my son? He's very unhappy. And he felt that his whole life was crumbling around him. His marriage was crumbling. Young guy, too, in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. And he was unhappy because he wasn't where he wanted to be. He felt like he could, once he found happiness, he could work on his marriage. He can work on everything else. And I'm like, what would make you happy? And he gave me a smart ass answer, but it was his real answer. He felt happiness would be owning the Atlanta Braves and a ski resort, and not like any ski resort, a publicly traded ski resort like Vail, Aspen. And I'm like, really? And I told him, you know, both are achievable because you can buy shares. I think of the Atlanta Braves parent company, after it's not Ted Turner, he sold them years ago. You can buy shares of it, and you can buy Mountain, which is the parent resort of these of Vail and Lake Tahoe. And I'm like, you can't have such a crazy delusional standard. Nobody can actually buy a ski resort like that. Oh, and by the way, he was a personal trainer, and not like Julian Michaels to the stars. He was just a normal personal trainer. And I'm like, you'll never be happy. And he's like, it took a while until he finally realized it's a choice that you do every single day. It can't be, and I know because I was the master of that. If then I'm happy. If I do this, then I'm happy. Or if I have validation, then I'll be happy. Uh, Another client, one felt that she could never, and this was a goal of hers, was running a marathon because she got sagged out at mile like 14, 15, 16. Now, in a previous life, I've ran 25 full marathons. But what happened was she had married with children. She had a stillborn. So she felt that by having a stillborn, it really wasn't about crossing that finish line. She felt deep down inside, because sometimes we always tend to be shallow. Hence, hey, how are you doing? I'm great. Are we really great? It's all small talk because we're at such a shallow level. But overall, what was bothering her wasn't getting sagged at a marathon. It was about losing a child. But after we got through that, the other stuff was a piece of cake. Anybody can train 26.2 miles or 13.1 for a half. You just have, you can't just wake up one day and go, I'm going to do it today or tomorrow. Just like life and success, if you do things on a consistent basis and you're focused on it and you break it down into goals, that's achievable.
Is that the process you had to go through to write your books? Like that's not an easy task writing one book, let alone two books.
Um,
Did you go
the,
through a process for that, or what did you do?
the first book took me 47 years to write. I tell that to people all the time, and they smirk, they laugh, and they're like, holy smokes, it's not War and Peace. It just took me 47 years to finally get the courage.
Yeah.
Because growing up, I went to LSU I got my degree in communications, did a lot of writing, but I never wanted to write because I never wanted, I'm not good. I'm not as good as, or not as great as Stephen King, not as great as Chuck Palahniuk, my favorite author of Fight Club and so many books, and these guys are amazing fiction characters. What I realized is the world doesn't need a better version of them or a clone. They needed the best version of myself. But I was still living my life like George McFly from Back to the Future. What if nobody buys the book? What if nobody likes me? What if I'm terrible? What? Because I would always focus on the worst case scenario, or I would only sell three copies, one to my mom and two to my kids. And until I finally pushed past through that and I realized that I am worthy. My first book was written 6 years ago when Uncle Sam gave us a 2 month or 90-day break, a reset, while everybody said they were going to change their life if only they had more time. Well, I used my time during the government shutdown to do something, and that was to literally write a book.
Which book was the first one?
What if it did work?
And then what? How long did it take you to write it?
Oh, I, I, I would say everything started flowing. The hardest part was believing in myself, and after
Mm,
that, it was rather easy. I'd say less than 90 days. It was actually I had to rewrite the book.
yeah, that's great.
hmm the premise of the first go around was what if it did work was I finally had the courage, the premise to ask out a girl that I grew up with since I knew since I was like in first grade, second grade, and I was in a relationship with her. So it was what if it did work, but things went south. We broke up. I had to rewrite it into a way better version of the book, which is the one that's out there.
I think it's a lot of us, making small improvements.
Always, always. That's what life's about. To me, success is waking up every day just wanting to be a better version than who I was yesterday.
Omar, did you write like? I mean, was it habits? Did you write X amount per day? Did you write in chunks? Like, what was your process?
My process was, and I'll tell people this: if you want to write a book, start with a page. And if you can't start with a page, think of a premise, think of an idea, think of a sentence, think of two sentences, man. You know, don't go for the gusto and say, I want to be on Oprah's couch because then, and I want a 300 page and it's going to be amazing. And I'm going to have the next Harry Potter line. You're going to be like hating life. What you need to do is write down I write everything down. What goal do I want to accomplish this week? Do I want a chapter? Do I want a great idea? And that's how I always, if it's a must, if you create a must, you'll find time. And you'll find time to write down your goals because you are a rock star and you're worthy of it. And two, you'll manage. Um, the second book, I was extremely busy, and I found time to write it at night. So if you make it a must, you'll find the time. I'd say the hardest part is really just believing in yourself. And if you say to yourself, well, that book, the premise of the book, it's already taken. Well, I mean, Hallmark seems to be making movies and Lifetime left and right with the boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back. It seems like a formula that's worked for a million other movies. So whatever your book is, what makes it amazing is there's only one you. And that story, I mean, everybody has a story to tell.
Omar, the fact that you were a communications major is interesting to me, right? I mean, you grew up scared to talk to people and afraid, and then
Yeah.
somewhere during that process, I mean, and I know this happened at LSU, but how the heck did you pick communications? Like, where did that come from?
I was horrible at sports. In my fraternity, I was tied for last with a guy that was heavy, like super heavy. So they would call me Slowmar. I was this guy that if you can't do, then report on it. I wanted to be the next Bob Costas. I wanted to be a sports journalist.
Hmm.
So I didn't realize you actually had to communicate with people, which it's always been a love-hate relationship. It was even I became an introvert after college, and I write in the book uh, how I got out of it was going to Vegas. It was like during the dot com boom. So airline tickets to Las Vegas were super cheap, like $80 each way from South Florida, and it was before Vegas charged like $20 for a glass of water, so everything was affordable. So I went there maybe like 40 times in one year. Kept on talking and talking and talking, and after a while, if talking to you guys, I could never do that. I was so fearful because oh my gosh, three strangers.
Yeah.
I would literally people thought I couldn't speak English, but also it was because who was I? Who was I to talk? I was my mom was a single parent. Mom and dad divorced before I was born, and so it was always like some story, and it was always like, well, I can't talk to you guys. You guys are way successful. You guys have a podcast, and that's how a lot of us operate. Like if you ask a buddy, hey, would you like to be on my podcast? More than likely, they'll say no, and not because they don't have great communication skills or great time. We always feel like we're not enough, and everybody's enough.
The fear thing is fascinating to me, and I think there's, you know, I tend to sometimes get too much into the logic of it and that, but it's a real thing, right? Like people, you mentioned, airplanes earlier. Like people are scared to fly, yet way more people die in cars, but almost nobody's scared of it. Or I think sharks. I know people that will not go in a lake in Texas, even though the sharks are in the salt water because they're scared of sharks. Yet more people die falling out of bed or falling off a ladder or having a vending machine fall on them than they do from sharks.
Oh, and
So,
just think, we all grew up in the time. I saw Jaws, so
yeah,
I was fearful of going in the pool because and then there was Caddyshack with that. Even if you go in a pool with the scene from Caddyshack and the Baby Ruth bar,
yeah,
and so yeah, I mean, and fear of flying. I was coming back with my parents or my family. It was my aunt, my grandmother, and my mom. And the pilot told us, hey, if you like, there's going to be severe stuff going down. So if you're a believer, pray. So the whole plane just went like airplane mode. Everybody screaming, except for my mom. My mom's always been like cool, calm, and collected. And I remember her telling my aunt, "Shut the f up, Maria. You're getting the kid nervous." And she said that twice, while the whole plane was just going crazy. So I get it. It took me forever to get over fear of flying, but it's because we always go for the irrational. I also had fear of speaking to people because mom always told me strangers were bad.
mm,
I grew up in a time with John Walsh, Adam Walsh. Somebody wanted to kidnap me, or something nefarious, sinister was going to happen. And if we live our life like that, nobody ever wanted to take me. Not back then, and certainly they don't want to take a 52-year-old man.
Well, it makes sense because, if you add up all of the communication that we have with, during our entire lives, all the back and forth between individuals and coaches and teachers and parents and brothers, sisters, friends, well or more than half of it is negative. We're bombarded with negativity. you're not, you only got a B, or you flunked your class, or you didn't make the team, or you're overweight, or you're slow, and there's so much negativity poisons people to the point where that's what they take in, and then that's what they project out because, well, I'm not a good communicator. I'm not a good writer. I'm not a good athlete. So I won't be a good writer and I won't be a good communicator. It's just we're absolutely bombarded with it. Now that's for this generation that's on this call now. Can you imagine what it's going to be, what it is like for our kids and our grandkids, the amount of negative communication and the bombardment of what they're going to feel? It's really the fact that they can even get out of bed with all this negativity is something to see. So yeah, I can see, I can see it now. I'm reading this book currently. You've probably all read it, called The Four Agreements. Which is, it's a light read, but it's a heavy read at the same time. It's just the poison that's out there, and it's really having a renewed impact on. I think I read it when I was in, I don't know when, maybe 20 years ago or something, but somehow it's back on my shelf. So anyway,
Well, Anthony, people always think that an event defines you, whether it's success or failure. It's just one event, man. What happens if somebody has something successful happens to them? I tell them sometimes they go all Hollywood, and I use that analogy because people always wonder. University of Southern Cal, they're football players, amazing in college.
Easy,
Well,
easy.
but you have
Go
to
ahead.
admit, a lot of them though, the, they're busts in the pro, and it's because they went Hollywood. Think about it. They're at the pinnacle. They're at SC. They have Snoop Dogg. They have 100,000 people. They're outside of LA. I mean, living. Look at Matt Leinart pictures with the women in the hot tubs and left and right, and then they're all, okay. Well, you're going to go to Green Bay now. You're going to go to Buffalo now. You're going to go to all these places.
Yeah, you're just now it's getting personal, Omar. Now it's getting and you're unfortunately very right.
But it's true,
John, just
though,
tell him
man.
Sam Darnold just won a Super Bowl and from there, so it
Caleb
worked out.
Williams had a great year too, by the way. Like I say, we're coming back, but but you're right though. I mean, you have, and then you compound that with NIL and the transfer portal and the ability to
Especially
move
now,
somewhere
but
else. And
yes,
it's tough. It's tough.
it's tough because
Omar, you've got this
yeah.
idea that like just act, just do something, and not making a decision. I think what I tell my kids in particular and people I work with too is like not making a decision is a decision.
It's the worst one. It's the worst one you can ever do. I tell people all the time, don't fear the person that has potential, that's sitting on the sidelines, waiting for the perfect opportunity, gathering information. The incompetent person that keeps on shooting, eventually he's going to get it done because he's trying. He's at least failing forward. At least, he's doing everything, which is he's doing something. While a lot of us use this excuse, since we're always fearful of rejection, fearful of, oh my God, looking bad, I'm waiting for the perfect opportunity. When it comes to investing in stocks, when it comes to losing weight, I'm waiting for the best diet book, the new one. We're always waiting for something. And a lot of it, we all have it already programmed inside us. It's common sense. We just pretend, oh, we bought a book, or we heard a guru. We heard this guru that's telling this common sense, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. No, that's something you learned in preschool or elementary school. It's called common sense. We just don't. We just don't like to act on it. So it's easier to play the victim.
I love that. Along those lines, I'm thinking Jeff Bezos. Somebody asked him about, if he had fear in starting Amazon, and his answer was something along the lines of, "I wouldn't if I didn't start it or I didn't try, I would have regret. If I start it and fail, I would not have regret." Right? But again, that goes back into your what if it did work, but I don't think most people think that way.
But Randy, one day we're going to get old. One day we're not going to have the energy. One day regret is like, oh gosh, I wish. I mean, we can go to a nursing home and ask them about regret. Hey, you asked out that girl. It bombed. You married your dream girl and you got a divorce. Well, you at least say you've been there, you've done that, and that doesn't mean you're a failure. I, I'm divorced after 20 years. I don't go around telling people, oh, I can't tell you how to have a good marriage because I'm divorced, or that's the only thing. Or do you regret? Somebody was asking me that. I was at a wedding. Do I regret getting married? I'm like, how can I regret that? It was part of my life. Plus, I've got two amazing daughters. That's the stupidest question. I told him. It's like going out on someone, and it's like I do believe in the butterfly effect. If I'm like, Dr. John, what if you didn't go to USC and you chose something else? Your whole life would have been completely different. Oh, what if you didn't do this in high school? It's like if I didn't flunk French 2 in high school, I would have never wound up at OSU. And I would have never wound up with my two kids. I would have never wound up on this podcast. Our lives, the A, B, C, D, it all aligns to our lack of indecision, our decisions, the good, the bad, the ugly, has led us all to here right now at this moment.
So when you have a client who comes in who's lacking some of the gratitude and some of the do it that you're kind of suggesting, where do you start with your clients? Like what's kind of step one?
Well, not everybody's meant to be my client, man. A lot of times we think, and I'll
That's
say
good.
that, man. It's like, as an entrepreneur, we chase or we try to be, great for everybody. Not everybody can afford to go to Disney World. If you don't want to pay the $30 parking or whatever, I'm sure Six Flags is free. Who knows? I'm just giving an example. Not everybody is, so if somebody doesn't want to do the work, because it would kill me, or somebody's like, oh, I don't believe in the woo-woo. Because I'll listen to a business development person and go, well, if you don't believe in the woo-woo, that's where all your foundation. You're going to keep on running into this negative stuff that you're not good enough. It always, and I know because the number one client is myself. I ran into self-destructive patterns and self-destructive behaviors for so many years was because I didn't feel like I was worthy. So a lot of times that we think we're like realtors in life. That's what social media is great. We can stage things to make things look perfect. And in reality, our lives can be like falling apart. Like, hey, it looks great on social media for that pic.
Yeah.
So yeah, if somebody doesn't want to do the work, I'll be like, okay. I'll be like, what makes you think that if we just get into making a 15% increase in sales, that you're going to hit nirvana? Well,
Yeah.
I've had plenty of people that, hey, we're not a fit, and that's fine. I'm not going to make it a fit because we don't live in that town in Footloose, especially now with the digital age. We can have clients all over the world. We can have friends all over the world. And we chase people based on scarcity that, oh, that's that one client. Oh, that's the only person that will go out with me.
Yeah.
Once again, not asking ourselves better questions.
So Omar, you've had numerous businesses, right? And
Hmm.
both franchises and non-franchises. What advice do you give people when they're trying to figure out what business to start? Like where? Because we have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen and a lot of
Of
aspiring
course.
entrepreneurs. So what would you tell those people?
Never do business based on emotion. The reason why I owned Smoothie King for 20 years, my number one business franchise, oh, I graduated from LSU and Louisiana, and the franchise is based or at the time in New Orleans where it was founded. A lot of times we do that. We go for well, I love Subway. I don't personally, but I'm just giving an example. Number one, don't rush it, man. Just sit back. We tell people we want people to hear like New Year's resolutions. Every day is a New Year, so don't worry about New Year's goals or resolutions, and don't say, "Oh, I want to lose weight," because it's something. What is it? Just take a half hour. Put away the phone and just have a notebook, pen, and write down what is it that you truly want. And don't give it the Miss America answer. What is it, the life that you want? What is it that one day when they're saying your eulogy, you want them to say he did this, she did this. Write down what it is. Number two, God, the universe. It's the craziest thing. In order to get to point A to point B, we have to give up bad habits. So what is it that we're willing to give up? Because if you want to lose 40 pounds, eating a large pizza and drinking a six-pack's not the way. So there's negative things, there's vices, negative habits that we have to get out of our lives. And three, I want you to be accurate with what it is that you want. If you want to lose 42 pounds, write 42 pounds and do it in a way. Don't say you want to lose it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We're not with Bob Harper and Jillian Michaels. There's no Biggest Loser here. Come up with a sensible time frame and then just break. I would say that's a 1 year goal, a doable goal. Put 1 year, which is February 2027, whatever your weight is now, minus 40 pounds, and then attack it. That to me is a long-term goal. Usually it's longer, but let's go brand newbie. That's your long-term goal. Your midterm goal is halfway, 20 pounds in 6 months. And write that down and be specific and don't sugarcoat it. If you don't hit it, don't go, hey, you know what? You still have 6 months to hit that long term. And what I want you to do is every week write down what it is that you want to accomplish by the end of the week. That's your short-term goals. And then you keep on looking at it every other day and see what's working and what's not working. Craziness is doing the same things that's not working over and over and thinking that something magically is going to happen. Take that away, add more habits, and just be laser focused, man. What you focus on, you will receive. You want to focus on losing weight. You want to focus on loving yourself. You want to focus on abundance of happiness. Focus on that and you'll receive it.
That's great. So write your eulogy, understand what bad habits you're going to get rid of, and understand what habits you're going to replace them with by having a 1 year goal broken down into weekly goals over time. That's great. Omar Medrano. If you want to check him out, omarmedrano.com. You can see information about his podcast. You can see about his coaching and see about his books. We'll have all that contact information in the show notes. Randy, take us home.
All right, listeners, as always, download, subscribe, tell your friends. It all helps. However that algorithm works, we're not smart enough to know that, but it helps the podcast to grow. So thank you and have a great day.
Listen and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Click follow for more content like this, or go to talesofabundance.com to join our community and get free tools.